I was in the first class of the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine, at that time called the Greenbrier College of Osteopathic Medicine when we started. And if I'm not mistaken, it was either in September or it was in the fall of 1974 is when the classes began. I graduated from WVU that spring of 1973. I was in the medical school library doing a research project it was for stripping of coal. So I went and was checking out a book, and a friend of mine, Greg Kelly, was at the desk. He worked at the desk at the medical school library, and he said, "John, how you doing?" I said, "Greg, not so well." He said, "Did you hear from the medical school?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't get accepted." He says, "I didn't either." He says, "What are you going to do?" I says, "Well, my dad's going to make me work. He's tired of me going to school. I need to start working at his carpet store." And I'd done that all my life, of course. As a kid, we had grocery store, we had furniture store, we had appliance store, and eventually we just had the grocery store and the carpet store, and then eventually just the carpet store. So I said that my dad wants me to go to start working after I graduate. I said, I want to be a doctor. Maybe I can go to Guadalajara, Mexico, but I'd have to, be estranged from my family because he wouldn't go for it. So Greg says, "Well, what about the osteopathic school?" I said, "Greg, what are you talking about?" He says, "They're going to open up an osteopathic school in Lewisburg, West Virginia. They bought the old Greenbrier Military Academy." I said, "Greg, I haven't heard anything about that." And I had no idea what osteopathic meant at the time. And he says, I says, "Is it like a chiropractor?" And he said, No. He said, "They're two fully trained, fully licensed physicians in the United States. Of course, the MDs, everybody knows, and the DOs, there's not as many, but they're around the United States." He said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Oh my God, yes, I'm very interested." He says, "Well, I'm going to see Dr. Wallington." This was Dr. Frank Wallington, one of the original founders, and he had a practice in Moundsville, but he also had a practice in Brewston Mills, which, if you know Morgantown, Brewston Mills is just on 68, going east, only about 10, 12 miles from Morgantown. He says he has a little practice there that he comes on Friday and sees patients on Friday evening and Saturday morning, and then goes, of course, back to Moundsville. He said, "Would you want to go up there Friday evening with me?" I said, "Greg, I would love to." The nurse says, "How about sitting here in his office and he'll be with you?" Well, it wasn't long that Dr. Wallington came in. We introduced ourselves, said that, we were very interested in the school, that we wanted to talk to him about it and see if we had an opportunity. So after he talked for a little while, he said, "I like both of you boys." He says, "I want you in my first class." And to me, it would just seem like a dream come true, that, oh my goodness. So I said, "Dr. Wallington, my dad always says that a handshake means quite a bit." I said, "Could I have a handshake on that?" He laughed. He said, "You bet." So we handshook and went back and told my dad, "I'm going to medical school." He said, what are you talking about, medical school?" I said, "They're starting a medical school at Greenbrier Military Academy. They bought that old military academy." He says, "Well, your uncle went to the Greenbrier." My uncle, Joe Jr., who was a physical therapist, he had gone there as a student. So there was some connection. And then the next thing we heard is that it would be delayed. It wasn't going to start in '73. For whatever reason, I don't know all the specifics about that. So I worked for a year for my dad, thinking that, oh God, please, let the school open up. And then sure enough, in '74, we opened up. It was quite an adventure. There wasn't a whole lot of money at that time. Our tuition wasn't a lot. I'd even hate to say what it was, I'm not sure, but it wasn't much. And for only 36 students, it was kind of hard, to make ends meet. We painted our own classroom, and we put our own stools together for histology laboratory that Dr. Sharp himself taught. So we did all the things that we could do, but things still weren't, the bottom line wasn't working out. So there was some scuttlebutt that maybe we'd have to be, we couldn't make it, and we'd be put into the other 4 or 5 schools. There was 36 of us. They were going to try to make a situation where 6 or so would go to the different schools. At that time, I told my dad, I said, "Dad, it looks like I might have to go to Texas. That's a possibility to finish up." And he says, "Texas?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "The school can't make it. Finances are bad." So at that time, my dad was always very good friends from the very beginning of Archmore's career, even as a congressman. Dad was kind of a leader of the Archmore Democrats. So I guess he talked to the governor at that time, Governor Moore, and said, "Hey, my boy's going to have to go to Texas." He says, "I don't like that." Well, and I'm sure that the governor, I don't want to act like, we had any pull or anything, and I'm sure the governor tried to help Dr. Wallington and Dr. Epcar and Dr. Newell. I'm sure they all knew him, and Dr. Bells. Everybody was working hard, to try to get the state to take us in. And so I remember my dad saying that, "Son, I had a call from the governor. He said he was going to do the state of the state, and to watch it, he thinks that we'll be happy." And he did the state of the state and put us into the state system, and we were secure. And so that was a relief. And the rest is history. And I'm so proud of the school. I've tried to do all I could to support it. I love osteopathy. I have a love affair. My love affair is medicine. And I'm so fortunate, because they say if you love something you do, you don't work a day in your life, and I feel that way. And I'm still working at 70, almost 72. I'll be 72 in a month or two, and still love it, still working. I have 3 clinics, 2 assisted livings, so we're blessed, and we've worked really hard. And to see what the school has done, I was fortunate enough to be on the Board of Governors for 9 years. I've been past president of the West Virginia Society of Osteopathic Medicine. I've been in the American Osteopathic Association since I started and since I became a physician. So I'm 100%, osteopathic, and I'm very proud of our profession, very proud of the school, very proud of all that we've accomplished, and I think that we're continuing to produce physicians, a lot of physicians in West Virginia that are osteopathic now. My grandson's a DO now, and he's at WVU, so I'm very, very proud of that. And I just hope that, I can be part of the future in some way, and always help and support the school. We're going to be able to continue on and be a real force, a medical force in West Virginia. And that's what we should be, Like I say, the state took a chance on us, and now I think that their investment has paid off 100-fold. It's been a camaraderie, and I'm just so proud to be an osteopathic physician. And what an opportunity, it was a godsend that, in '74, we started, because, I was going to be a carpet salesman and lay carpet. So I'm just blessed. I was to the point where, I was out of options, and it was, just to think that at that time in my life that came available, I'd have to say it was the good Lord. I believe in God, and it was a good Lord for me. So yeah, it was life-changing and a dream come true.